Hey everyone, it's Blair here at Time Trades. Thanks for joining me this weekend. It is Saturday, October 15th, and this is your weekly video. We've got, as usual, lots to cover this week, and I'm going to be using a slightly different approach, I guess, to analyzing the go-forward forecast. So bear with me for a second while I build towards that. But for now, let's just review our forecast from last week and see what happened here. We're looking at the NASDAQ futures, and this time last week, we drew this yellow bar that went up and then went down to the magic level here at 10,520. And we were expecting a bit of a reaction off the CPI based on the recent news, but wow, what a reaction. That was a really crazy day, huge range, big doji on the futures. It looked like a bullish engulfing on the cash. And then we got another doji on the futures yesterday using Heikin-Ashi bars on Friday. So a lot of uncertainty, a lot of emotion in the market. I got the touch of the magic level correct. I was off by probably a couple of days here. I guess I'd give myself a C on that forecast. Definitely captured the volatility implied with that arrow. So that wasn't too bad. The most interesting thing about last week for me is the number of stocks and futures that are sitting on top of magic levels. So we've got the NQ here. It tagged this magic level. ES is sitting on top of a white magic level at 3570. That for me really is a line in the sand. Like if we can separate below this, it really is game over. So all of my go forward forecasts presume this holds. A lot of what I see in the past when you see these big spikes below magic levels and then strong rebounds, even if the next day isn't super strong and a strong follow through day, this still ends up being more times than not a significant low. It will take something major for this to curl down and continue lower. That being said, I don't want to make any illusions here. We are in a bear market. I am not a bull, but I am also being cognizant of the fact that we're sitting on top of major support here in the NQ and the ES. I believe it will break. I just think it'll take multiple attempts to break through. So here we are on this level in the ES. If we scroll back in time here, we can see what happened back in November of 2020. So it actually took a couple of attempts to get through this level on the way up, right? So 1, 2, 3, and then a breakthrough, and then a retest, and then finally it was able to achieve separation. So this was a multi-month effort from September through November 2020 to get through 3570 on the way up. Once it did, it was free sailing pretty much with one exception here until the all-time high. So that being said, I think it's going to take more than 2 tries to bust through 3570. I'm prepared to be wrong, of course, but that's just one person's opinion. This is a super key level, and we're watching it close. Okay, so let's go back to the cues, and we can start to think about how are we going to build out our forecast for the next week. So before I do that, I want to share some of the upgrades I've made to time trades over the past week. Some of these are sort of below the waterline, kind of not super visible. So I like to review these with you. So there's awareness of what's going on behind the scenes here. So a couple of days ago, I noticed a tweet from someone I follow on Twitter, Fiboganchi, And Diego Fiboganci is his handle on Twitter, and he does some great GAN-inspired analysis. And one of the things he mentioned was that Mars was transitioning into Gemini from Taurus over the weekend. And I've been focusing a lot on Mars in my work lately, in my offline research. And I thought that was really interesting, and it made me take a closer look at how I model these transitions into new signs in the machine learning data. I decided to do a couple of quick experiments here to see what would happen if I increased the orb when planets enter new signs. So that basically means the number of positive days or the number of days where I identify that column as having a 1 value. I expanded that around the exact day that it enters a new sign. So I added a 2-day orb on either side of exact to the actual day when planets enter a new sign using Vedic. And this covers both geo and helio signs. And this made actually a really big improvement in the machine learning precision and accuracy. So I was really happy with that. That is now live on the site, and that's going to play a bit of a role as we interpret and build the forecast going forward. So that's one of those important optimizations that I'm always making behind the scenes. I also want to talk a little bit about some of the roadmap. But I think in the context of the roadmap, it's important to understand that today, time trades price data starts in November 1999. So this is not great. I really want to expand that out to include much more historical data so that we can capture some of these outer planet cycles. In light of that limit to time trades, this is how I'm updating the roadmap going forward. I've recently become aware of a new data provider that can address some of these gaps in historical data and also provide access to indexes such as Nifty, Bank Nifty, SPX, and also provide long-term historical data in addition to that broader selection of data. So this is a big step forward, and it's going to be a multi-week or maybe even multi-month transition as we adapt to use more and more of this new data provider. But I'm excited to start heading in that direction and add additional symbols to you and make those available, and also train up the machine learning with additional historic data. The second thing I'm working on is something called a mass pressure index, and I'm currently doing some experiments with different ways to calculate this. This is something that GAN would do. He would basically blend together price data from 3 or 5 different years together and then use that to make a going forward forecast. And this is something that I think would complement what's in time trades very, very well. And I'm replicating what GAN did. In addition, I'm putting my own twist on things and trying out different ways to select the historic data and combine it together so that maybe we can achieve higher levels of accuracy. The web application continues to be a focus. We want to improve usability, smooth out the rough edges. So some ideas include things like supporting dark mode and being able to search on influencers. Okay, so those 3 items are really the new additions to the roadmap. So there's lots to do there, and I'm going to be prioritizing items that have really broad impact to the overall experience of using time trades, not both user experience and accuracy of the machine learning models. So with that being said, let's flip over to time trades itself here, and we can take a look at some of the indexes and use that information to build a new forecast going forward. Okay, so we're looking at the Qs, And the thing that jumps out right away is, well, two things actually. The steep decline in down pressure, which often translates into increases in price, and a peak in pivot high probabilities on October 24th. All right, so that is really interesting here. And we can see how that plays out in the coming weeks. Let's see if that is also in common with the spiders. Okay, on the spiders, we also see a decline in down pressure coinciding with a pivot high on October 28th. And we see some green here. So this is probabilities of 2 standard deviation moves up over the last 5 days. So this is starting to get up into like the over 60% range. So again, this is a bullish looking forecast, which aligns with the Qs. So let's take a look at the Dow. On the Dow, we also have what looks like a bullish looking forecast, a few little red bars here, but again, we've got a big cluster of green, and that is peaking right around October 25th. So based on what we're seeing here, we're seeing, like pivot highs in the range from October 24th to October 28th. So I think that's a key piece of information as we build our new forecast going forward. So let's flip over to trading view here, and we can flesh out this new forecast. So if we were to go and add a little box here to this, let's add that forecast box. So this forecast box represents the date range from October 24th to October 28th, okay? And it also spans the price range from the magic level at 11,700 and the 618 retrace of this entire decline back to August 16th, okay? Because I'm interpreting this big pivot high as indicating that we are going to see some sort of retracement of a larger price structure. And I think the larger price structure here is this decline from August 16th. So we saw a lot of volatility around the magic levels down here on Thursday. That was mostly retraced, but held on Friday. So no magic levels were crossed. So despite all of the fear that's out there on social media, this is actually a good low risk, high reward bullish setup because we've got the magic levels at our back. They've been tested, they held, and we've got the machine learning probabilities indicating a little bit of a tailwind over the next week or so. And we've got, what looks like a completed pattern down. So we could see a bit of a recovery or bounce here just to reset some of the oversold indicators, reduce the fear that's in all of the sentiment indicators, and set things up for the next wave down. By no means am I saying that this is the bottom. There's no way. We've got more to go. But I think that some sort of target in this time and price box is reasonable. Okay, so that's just the first half of the forecast going forward. The second half of the forecast involves around a little bit of offline research I've been doing with respect to Mars. And I've identified a bit of a broad date range. I wish it was a little narrower, but there's a broad date range where I think we can expect to see a major pivot based on where Mars is in its cycle. So if we are to unhide that rectangle. So that's way down here. Now, I'll tell you why I chose this rectangle for sort of a longer term target. And the first is the dates, okay? It starts on October 28th and ends on December 16th. That's based on looking back at the last 5 or 6 Mars cycles where and looking at where those major pivots and then lining that up with where we are. The second part of the forecast is the price, and that was really chosen based on the attraction that the magic levels tend to have over longer term price moves. So I believe that we are going to be heading somewhere in this box between October 28th and December 16th. If I were to make a guess, I'd say it's late November, November 28th here, around that area in alignment with the blue Gann wave. So this is a bit of, I guess, an aggressive forecast. I don't usually forecast this far out. However, I do want to share with you the results of this sort of offline research that I've been doing in collaboration with a number of others, and get that out there. So we shall see what actually happens. And based on this, we can build sort of a new path here. And that's the new forecast path. We're seeing a pop up into this first green box just to relieve some of the bearish pressure. It could complete anywhere between this magic level and the 618 retrace of the broader structure. And then I'm going to drag this arrow here over to the blue Gann wave, because really I think that's the most likely spot where it's going to close, or sorry, complete. So we'll be tracking this over the next few months. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, that's the latest update here on the NASDAQ futures. Okay, so let's go back to time trades. We'll take a look at a little bit more here. Let's also check if there's confluence with the dollar, because the dollar is really driving the bus, has been for a while. And what do we see in the dollar is actually a decline in up probabilities, and this aligns with what else we're seeing here. So, and a slight increase in pivot highs. I don't know if that's enough to make a difference, but what I'm noticing here is really this decline in up pressure, which can translate into decline in prices as well. So I'd say that generally this aligns with what we're seeing in the indexes and supports that. Also, if we look at VXX or volatility, what we see on volatility here is a down day October 24th and a low on October 27th. Again, that's right in that date range of that first target box we drew. Okay, so that's all nice and supportive. Let's take a look at a few stocks here. We can take a look at Apple. I always like to take a look at that. And when it comes to Apple, we see some increasing probabilities of a move down, peaking around October 31st. It is a little sketchy, I guess I would say. These are not super high probabilities, 23% or that. However, it does seem to come to an end right at this blue bar. And some of these bars are a little isolated. I tend to prefer clusters like this. Yeah, again, we see some bigger clusters around November 18th. And this Gann wave blue on November 28th, we see some increasing green probabilities right after that. So Apple, I wouldn't say it contradicts our forecast, but it's definitely not confirming. This is not the highest quality forecast in time trades that I've seen. Let's put it that way. Now let's take a look at NVIDIA. So NVIDIA, we've been tracking for a while here. We like it because it's hanging out right at this magic level. It does have a very nice cluster of green here, combined with pivot highs again in our target box between October 26th, 27th, 28th. So this is still on the list of longs to consider. Like anything these days, with so much fear in the system and so much news sensitivity, risk is elevated. So certainly, if you're going to play this on the long side, protect your capital. Do follow best practices around that with using stops and be smart about managing your risk. Okay, I also want to take a look at UNG here. Now, with UNG, what I like about it is how predictable the Gann waves seem to be with predicting price on it. So we've got major highs at Gann wave yellows until September 19th. We got the major high about 3 days before, and after that, it's just been flushed down. So we're coming up to another Gann wave yellow here on Monday. But then after that, we see a big cluster of red here on UNG. So I think this could be actually a good opportunity to consider a bearish trade on UNG, playing for that Gann wave blue on October 31st. Just be aware that, like anything else in time trades, these probabilities could invert, right? These could flip, turn into green values here. So yeah, by all means, manage your risk in that, but the balance of probabilities is indicating a down move through the end of October. Okay, so let's take a quick look at crypto. All right, what do we see in Bitcoin? Bitcoin has really been grinding out a base here for like the last, 3 months since June. So, I mean, the good thing is it's stable. The bad thing is it's not moving. Whatever move comes out of this is going to be big. But we're starting to see glimmers of optimism appear in November into November 14th. So this actually would be a data point that I would say contradicts, some of the broader stock interpretation that we're seeing here. Usually stocks and crypto tend to move in the same direction. So this is not in alignment with what we just finished talking about in stocks. We do have a big pivot high November 12th, and then also a smaller pivot low at the end of November. So we'll see how this plays out. But I think, certainly in November, we can expect to see some volatility here based on where Mars is in its cycle. And let's take a look at Ethereum. Okay, when it comes to Ethereum, again, it's also building a base, but certainly had a few more bullish moves here than Bitcoin. It's hanging out just below this magic level. This would probably be one of those scenarios where I just look for any sort of break of this magic level. We're not getting much of an edge from the time trades probabilities. It does look like we've got a potential pivot high at the end of October, early November, right aligned with this Gann wave blue. So that may be a play heading into the end of October, is to look for a move up into this pivot high and a subsequent move down into this pivot low we're seeing in mid to late November. Okay, so that's it from me. I hope you're all having a great weekend, and I hope you found this week's video helpful as we navigate these tense markets with lots of stress in them. And I look forward to talking with you again next week. Thank you. Bye now.